So, where exactly do you draw the line between, say, a totally routine business gift and an illegal bribe? Is taking a client out to a really extravagant dinner just good networking? Or is it crossing a major ethical boundary? Welcome to This Explainer. We're going to unpack the incredibly complex and honestly kind of gray moral choices we face at work every single day. I am really looking forward to getting into this with you because navigating workplace ethics, it's not just about memorizing a rule book. It's about understanding how our everyday choices ripple outward. To make sense of the whole shebang, we're going to use this framework I love called concentric circles. Think of workplace ethics like a stone dropping into a pond. Right in the middle, that innermost circle, is your own internal moral compass. Then the next circle out is your obligation to your employer. And finally, that outermost circle, that's your responsibility to third parties, your community, and society at large. Every single decision you make is basically a massive balancing act across all these circles. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. 1. The employee's moral compass. 2. Abusing the official position. 3. Gifts, bribes, and kickbacks. 4. Valuing workplace diversity. And 5. Understanding workplace discrimination. We're essentially bridging financial ethics right over to human ethics. All right, Section 1, the employee's moral compass. Let's start right at the center of our choices. Before we talk about the company, we kind of have to talk about you. The foundation here is integrity. Our sources define integrity as behavioral excellence that's deeply rooted in honesty and morality. It's about sticking to the time-tested values of society. But when you walk into the workplace, this individual honesty gets formalized into an employment contract. And that contract creates a super vital framework of reciprocal loyalty. You owe the firm your honest effort, and the firm owes you fair treatment in return. When you sign on that dotted line, you're taking on specific obligations. It's way more than just showing up. It's about performing the specified work, following instructions, handling tools with care, and maintaining a fit mental and physical condition. You literally have to put forth an honest effort. But I really want you to notice that last bullet point, because it's absolutely crucial. Honoring this contract requires strict adherence to equal opportunity laws. You must respect all your coworkers, regardless of their race, gender, age, or handicap. Section 2. Abusing the official position. So, what happens when our personal desires start clashing with that loyalty we owe the firm? And this brilliantly illustrates the problem. A conflict of interest places you right at an ethical crossroads. Basically, a conflict exists the second there's even a possibility that your outside financial interests could mess with your professional decisions. It's an abuse of your official position. This could be something huge, like steering a corporate contract to your spouse's company, or it could be seemingly small, like using corporate funds to pay for your private jet membership, a lavish party, or a personal vacation. If you see this crossroads approaching, the only ethical move is to extricate yourself immediately, or, better yet, just avoid it entirely. This whole conflict of interesting really peaks with insider trading. That's when someone acts on significant non-public facts to affect stock prices. The debate here is actually pretty fascinating. Critics say it's fundamentally unfair, it injures regular investors, and completely undermines market confidence. But on the flip side, defenders actually argue it performs a desirable economic function by pushing stock prices to their correct level faster. But listen, regardless of the economic defense, the ethical reality is clear. Executives who do this are putting their own personal interests directly above the interests of the company. Section 3, gifts, bribes, and kickbacks. Let's move further out in our concentric circles into some really dangerous, murky territory. People use these terms interchangeably all the time, but we really need to demystify the jargon. A bribe is remuneration, so that could be cash, entertainment, a physical gift, or even preferential treatment, given for an act that is totally inconsistent with the work contract. A kickback, though, is actually a specific type of bribery. It's a percentage payment given back to someone who influences or controls a source of income. So the crucial point here is that crossing this line has massive real-world consequences. Under the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission Act of 2009, committing an offense can land you in prison for up to 20 years. 20 years. And no, it doesn't stop there. You can also get slapped with a fine that's at least 5 times the value of whatever gratification you received. No way is that worth it. Now here's where it gets tricky. Gifts and entertainment are just a normal part of business all over the world, right? Taking a client to a baseball game or sending a holiday hamper, it's routine. But those seemingly innocent gifts can so easily blur into bribery and create massive conflict of interest traps. Knowing exactly where to draw that line is, well, it's not always easy. Thankfully, we've got this brilliant checklist to help out. Before accepting any gift, Ask yourself about these 7 factors. What's the value of the gift? What's its actual purpose? Look at the circumstances. Was it handed over during a really tense contract negotiation? Think about the position and sensitivity of the person receiving it. Does it align with accepted industry practices? What about company policy? And of course, what does the law actually say? Keep these in your mental toolkit for sure, because they will absolutely stop you from stepping on a landmine. Section 4, Valuing Workplace Diversity. We are pivoting the narrative arc here, moving from protecting financial interests to our obligations to society. Because, let's be real, our ethical responsibilities absolutely do not stop at the company door. True integrity means acknowledging our obligations to the broader community and truly valuing the coworkers standing right next to us. It's about realizing that our differences aren't a weakness. They're a huge asset. Now, what's really interesting about these examples is how they challenge our default assumptions. On one side, we have the women's Malaysia football team, proving football is definitely not just a men's domain. And on the other, players from the FA's blind football squad. The FA actually supports 6 international disability squads, providing kits, physios, and travel funding for world championships. It's just absolute, undeniable proof of vibrant diversity in action. Diversity means valuing the differences between people and the ways in which those differences can contribute to a richer, more creative, and more productive working environment. I love that quote. It strikes right at the core of the issue. Diversity isn't just some HR buzzword. And remember, it covers so much ground. Race, gender, age, health, politics, family structure. Everyone brings a totally unique lens to the table. Section 5, Understanding Workplace Discrimination. So, what happens when that diversity is rejected? Discrimination is prejudices put into action. I want you to just take a second and let that sink in. It's one thing to have a bias in your head, that's prejudice. But the very second you act on it, the moment it changes how you treat a coworker or a customer, it becomes discrimination, and that crosses a severe ethical and legal line. To stop prejudice from turning into action, we have legal frameworks. For example, the UK's Equality Act of 2010. This was a real game changer. It took 116 separate pieces of legislation and merged them into one powerful act. It established 9 core protected characteristics, making it explicitly illegal to discriminate against anyone based on age, disability, race, religion, sex. You get the idea. The law actually breaks this down into a few types. Let's start with direct discrimination. To translate the legal jargon into plain English, direct discrimination is just when person A treats person B less favorably than they'd treat anyone else in the exact same circumstances, and specifically doing so because of one of those protected characteristics. Here's a perfect, incredibly frustrating example from our sources. Imagine a 70-year-old woman trying to buy a broadband contract from a store in the UK, only to be turned away. The staff literally told her she could only register if she brought a younger family member with her. Why? Because the company assumed customers over 70 wouldn't understand the contract terms. That is textbook direct age discrimination. It's like putting a giant wall in front of one specific person while everyone else just swims by freely. Let's move to and see how this builds into something a bit more subtle. Indirect discrimination. This is when a rule applies equally to everyone on paper, but in reality, it excludes one group way more than another. Like, say an employer introduces a new shift pattern with fewer but much longer workdays. Sounds fair, it applies to everyone. But if you have an employee with a disability who physically can't work those marathon hours, that fair rule puts them at a massive disadvantage. Unless the employer has a rock-solid justification, that is indirect discrimination. As your sphere of moral choices expands from corporate funds to human dignity, where will you stand when prejudice is put into action? We've journeyed from the innermost circle of your personal integrity through the absolute minefield of bribes and conflicts of interest, all the way out to human equality. Every single day, your work asks you to balance these responsibilities. So I'll leave you with this provocative thought. The next time you see prejudice put into action, what will you do? Thanks for unpacking these complex boundaries with me today in this explainer, and I really hope this framework helps you navigate your own ethical crossroads.